Using raspberry Brahman electrolytes was flagging towards the end of cycles, so I introduced the beef stroke fat Pemmican bar off of Keto Pro yesterday. Seemed to do the trick. Love you guys.
Yeah, awesome. I was just looking for the wrapper because I've just eaten one. Yeah, the Pemmican are fantastic. They are by a company called the Pemmican Project. A good pal of mine, Rasmus, that's his business, and I stock that brand. I'm not sure who else. I know the Real Food Company also stock them, but they are absolutely incredible. They are the elite carnivore snack. It's a tiny little 50-gram bar packed full of protein and fat, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's one of those things where the first time you eat it, it's I don't know if I like that, and then you find yourself eating another, and before you know it, you're craving them, because the body wants protein and fat. But yeah, fantastic news. Thanks for having me. It's the Pemmican bars. Yeah, a little addition to the long cycles or long training sessions. So thanks for that. Brilliant feedback.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. Thank you for the super chat. It is really appreciated. It helps the channel. And here we are in state-controlled Britain. It's two-tier justice being dished out, but we still speak the truth about the way you should eat, and we don't care about being censored. We just tell you what the truth is. There you go. Right. Of course, there are some things we're not allowed to talk about, which is ridiculous. But anyway, that's not Britain. That's pretty much everywhere. Ziana is saying, do you have a favorite beef liver and thyroid capsule supplement to suggest? I think only DAO and thyroid help, and heard beef organs assist with this, but not a fan of eating them. Beef kidney, but I think there is a bit more to this question, so we go into that. Having issues with inflammation and histamine when I eat certain things. Doing just meats, but was doing fermented meat sticks for lunch, lack of time. Is OMAD bad for women? Dinner at 6 p.m, hard on the thyroid. And last bit of it is, thank you all for all you do. I'm new to this and learning a lot. Have had issues for many years. Appreciate all you do. So do you want to go back to that first bit, Richard?
Brilliant question. What I would ask is, Ziana, whereabouts in the world are you? If you are stateside, then Dr. Kiltz does some fantastic organ supplements. If you're UK side, there are a few companies. Hunter and Gather is a brand that I stock, which isn't my brand, but they do some good quality liver supplements and organ meat supplements. There's another one called something ape. I can't remember. One of the brands that I own is called Brave Ape. It isn't that one. It's a different brand. They seem to be pretty clean. But basically, when you're looking for an organ meat supplement, just make sure that it doesn't contain any fillers. Try to get something that isn't in a capsule if you can, because the capsule is going to be made from veg compounds. It's not the end of the world. I think the gain, the positive from consuming that is going to far outweigh any potential negative effect of the veg capsule. And it is minimal. I'm being incredibly picky. But you can get the desiccant tablet form, which will contain less nasties. In regards to, what was the next question? Histamine inflammation when I eat certain things. Yeah, so we tend to find this with aged meats, with ground beef or minced beef. It can occur with things like chicken and pork also, because chicken is grain-fed and pork tends to be aged. So try to eat fresh if possible. Buy fresh, buy from your local butcher, buy and eat fresh. Freeze if you're not going to consume it immediately, and then just remove it from the freezer, pop it into the fridge a day or two before you're ready to consume that. Is OMAD bad for women? Look, it's whatever works for you. I know some women who thrive on one meal a day. What I would add, I did mention recently that in my opinion and my experience, I find that women do a lot better with 2 to 3 meals a day for hormonal production. And I was slated on social. There were lots of women who jumped on, I eat 1 meal a day and I'm perfectly fine. And fantastic. If that is you and you are so let me explain this in a little bit more detail. There is a little bit of nuance to this. Generally, if a woman eats 1 meal a day, they tend not to eat or consume enough. And I'm not talking about calories, because anybody who is a keen member of the channel will know that a calorie doesn't really exist in the context that we believe it to. But let's talk about nutrition. Generally, if a woman eats 1 meal a day, unless it's a large meal, in my opinion, they're not going to consume enough vitamins and minerals from the animal proteins and the natural fats. You can do, and some people do, and there are carnivores out there that I know who thrive on 1 meal a day, but they eat a substantial meal. They eat a large meal, fatty cuts of beef and lamb, and they do incredibly well out of that. They also have repaired their intestinal permeability. Their hormonal function is now up to scratch. But what I tend to find is most people coming into this way of living are coming into this because they are damaged. Many of us, including myself and Steve, I think you can attest to this also, we've come into this way of living because we are damaged. We suffer with intestinal permeability and insulin resistance in the context as we understand it, and inflammation and all of these other things. And it takes time to heal and repair. It takes time to upregulate the acidity in the gut and the bile production. And this is critically important. This can take an awful long time. You can be consuming the correct quantity and amount of protein and fat to your body weight and your requirement, but if your stomach acid is not up to scratch, if your bile production is not up to scratch, and if your bile reabsorption is not working efficiently, it doesn't matter how much you eat. If you are consuming enough, you're still not absorbing the correct amount of nutrients. So this does depend on where you are on your journey, whether your gut is healed, whether you're still suffering with bile production problems, reabsorption, and stomach acid problems. So there are carnivores out there who thrive on 1 meal a day, but they eat enough and their bodies are able to digest and absorb those nutrients. But generally, what I tend, and this goes for men also, as we come into this way of living, what I tend to find is women, if they just eat 1 meal a day, tend not to consume enough. And what they do consume, if their stomach acidity is low, they're not digesting, and bile production and so on and so forth. So they don't receive adequate nutrition through the diet. So what I tend to find works best is 2 to 3 meals a day for women, smaller meals with less fat, and this helps with the stomach acidity. This also helps with the bile production and reabsorption. And over time, what I tend to find is that the women who do this can gravitate to 2 to 1 meal a day. But generally, Zayana, I tend to find if you're new to this way of living, 1 meal a day tends not to be enough. So just bear that in mind. See how you feel. See how your energy production is. Check for hair loss. Hair loss is a big thing with women when they come into this way of living, and they blame this on not consuming vegetables, but it's not. They blame it on not consuming carbohydrates, but it's not this. It's to do with consuming enough and having the ability to digest and absorb those nutrients adequately. So bear that in mind. But we're all different. Everyone's different on this journey. So if you're thriving on 1 meal a day, then fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny how we say one little thing on the social media and it blows up. And we never say it as that's the only answer. We never answer in that way. It's categoric. We always, like we've just answered that question, what fits that person? But we can generalize. If you've got 1,000 clients and 700 have tried OMAD and it hasn't worked, well, you can say your experience is it hasn't worked, but it doesn't mean that 300 have. So try not to give us a hard time when we make these comments. We are trying to help you. Right, next question. Let's have a look. That was Zayana. Zayana, have we done that one? Have we done that one? There. Okay. Right. Vinny again. He did do a £10 super chat, but also he's asked a question, so that's fine. Don't forget you can add a super chat to your question, and that will move you up the queue and also help us here to do this. Right, Vinny. Hi guys, strict carnivore, heading down to Somerset for a cycle next Saturday, but the temperature is going to be double what I'm used to. Any tips? I'm training at 70 to 80 miles at a time using half, and then that's it. That's as far as it goes.
Okay. Using half. Okay, I'm guessing that they may be. So look, temperature it's a crippler. It's you can do all of the training in the world. Your supplementation can be spot on. the heat can cause major problems. I've had 2 athletes recently who have been competing at an incredible level, and they've competed in a temperature that is out of their comfort zone, and they've really struggled. And it's caused a number of issues. So there's a cramping, obviously, cramping issue, obviously dehydration. So electrolytes, super important. I would make sure that you've got adequate electrolytes, but it needs to be in the right quantity to water. It's not just a case of adding more to the bottle, because too much electrolytes is going to dehydrate you. So you're going to need to increment the amount of electrolytes pro rata to the water. It may require you adding an additional bottle to the bike. Also, and I'm going to get shouted at with this, but you may want to take a glucose energy gel with you. And the reason for this is that the extreme temperatures, unless you're used to it, can cause severe dehydration and hypoglycemia. This has nothing to do with carnivore not being adequate or keto not being adequate. This is purely to do with the temperature at a high intensity that you're not used to. Had you been used to training at that temperature for the last couple of weeks, I wouldn't be suggesting this at all. But I would take that with you. You don't need much, but it could be enough to prevent hypoglycemia because of the heat. Now, the body can create all of the glucose that we need, but if it's not used to working in that temperature, this could be a problem. And look, we don't need to look at keto and carnivore as black and white. There are sections of grey in regards to this. We look at, and I'm very much all for zero carb, because I genuinely believe that the human body requires 0 exogenous carb once fully adapted. I am looking to get a clinical trial set up. I don't know how much it's going to cost yet, and obviously it could be a case of crowdfunding. But what I want to do is perform a trial based on fully adapted athletes. So this is fully keto adapted athletes, 0 carb athletes who have been doing this for over 12 months, to prove what I believe, that we require 0 carbohydrate. So Professor Noakes' recent trial showed that the body requires around 10 grams of carbohydrate per hour, or glucose per hour. And this is achievable through the natural process of gluconeogenesis. But what he found was that at a high intensity for prolonged periods of time, the supplementation of exogenous glucose prevented hypoglycemia, which it's not to do with muscle glycogen, it's to do with blood glucose levels. And this is what causes us to bonk when it comes to cycling. I genuinely believe that once we're fully adapted, our requirement is 0. But if it's not, then that's fine, because this is about the pursuit for the correct information and the right answers. I'm not wedded to these words keto and carnivore. I'm in this for optimal health and nutrition. I want to find the truth, and I'm in this to live as long as I can and be as healthy as I can, and perform at the best level that I can. And if this involves this much carbohydrate, then so be it. The results are the results, but I'm intending to look for that. But what we tend to find is, if you were not fully adapted and you're not used to competing in that heat, this comes outside of the box in regards to competing at a high level with endurance sports. And there may be a requirement for a tiny amount of exogenous carbohydrates. So take that with you. If you feel that kicking in, then take that. The raspberry bomb will also help. Keep that for later in the race, because this will help buffer all of the lactate in the legs, and it will help you power through the second half. And they're bound to electrolytes. It's going to help with dehydration also. But don't shoot me. So it's not black and white. It's if we need to compete at a high level and it takes this much carbohydrate, it doesn't make you non-carnivore. It doesn't make you non-carnivore. You're still in a ketogenic state.
Excellent. And we've got We've got somebody volunteering to help with research, Peter Madeleine. And Richard, what you just said, I didn't know you were trying to get that off the ground. If you contact me later, I'll see if we can get any funding going. So,
Peter?
we'll do some. Sorry?
No, sorry, go on.
And Peter has also put, I'm zero carb, England Masters International Half Marathon runner.
Fantastic. Brilliant stuff.
You've got to pick that up.
Peter, drop me an email. If you email the team at info@theketopro.com, all one word, so that's info at theketopro.com. Just put into the subject, pass on to Rich or FAO Rich. Just send me your contact details and I'll reach out. But anybody else who's listening who's also zero carb for over 12 months, be interested to hear from you also.
Brilliant. And Richard was very short and snappy then, so I might be able to get a reel out of that without any editing. Right, Beverly Jones, £4.99. That's really helpful, Beverly. Other people watching might think, well, that doesn't make any difference. What's the point? It really does make a difference. It just helps us. We do this free of charge every single Sunday. Even if we're out and about, we try and get on and try and give everyone a really full and frank answer. Let's have a look. The next one is Karen. Karen has done a £5 donation and she's also got a question. So we're going to jump that up the queue there. And she's put, hi chaps, how many hours do you need to be into a dry fast to reap some benefits? Which is an interesting question. When you're fasting, you see, when I'm not eating now, Richard's not eating now. So are we fasting or are we just fed and therefore running on fuel? So that's the first thing when we talk about fasting. So you're saying deliberately stopping eating for a period of time. Now, dry fasting is different because obviously you're not taking any fluids in. Look at Richard there, guzzling down his electrolytes. So firstly, I wouldn't do any dry fasting unless you've done a water fast. I want you to be good at fasting. When will you see benefits? Maybe after about 12 hours, that would be good because most of us fast for 8 hours anyway when we're asleep, unless you're one of those people that raids the fridge at 2 o'clock in the morning going, I'm a secret meat eater. Anyway, right. Poor old Richard doesn't understand that because that's an old advert from my era. Do you remember that?
I was laughing because I used to do that very thing when I was a carb addict. I'd wake at 2 in the morning to raid the fridge, but it wasn't for meat. But no, I do not recognize that. What's it from?
Oh, well, actually, I've changed the words because there used to be a thing called All Whites Lemonade. And it was a guy in his pajamas coming down and he'd go, I'm a secret lemonade drinker. All whites lemonade. Elvis Costello's dad. Anyway, right. So most people do sleep 8 hours. So most people can fast 8 hours. We're pretty used to that. I don't think you can see anything spectacular if you fast for 10 hours. I think after about 12, then you will, because most people are used to eating. So you're going to start seeing those differences. If you're dry fasting, then you are going to be seeing the whoosh effect from your fat cells. There is talk, and I've said it before, many people think that 1 day of dry fasting is equivalent to about 3 days of water fasting. I think that might be anecdotally sort of around the right area. I'd certainly feel when I do a dry fast, there's a huge benefit to a dry fast, and that is I don't think about food. I think about drinking water. And it's strange how your brain completely changes because if you're fasting, like doing a wet fast, you think about food sometimes. I found in a dry fast, I didn't think about food. I just thought about drinking some water. Now, what mind shift is that? Wow, I'm going to be really naughty now. I'm going to have a little bit of water. Wow, that's naughty. So I think it's helpful that way. But I don't have any studies off the top of my head that can give you sort of this happens after 12 hours, this happens after 18, this happens after 24. But I think if you did a 24-hour dry fast, you would feel fantastic, and I think you'd see a little bit of improvements in body composition as well. So that's my 2 penneth. I don't know if Richard wants to add anything to that.
I'm happy.
Good. I'm happy. Hope you're happy too. Right. I'm in a singy mood. That's annoying, isn't it? Right. Peter's just saying, please repeat your email so I can check I've got it right.
I will pop it into the comments.
Brilliant.
I am writing that now.
Bandabidosy. Right. Doing loads of old references here. Right. Let's get into the start questions. Oh boy, I've been on holiday. First week I've had off in 5 years. You can certainly tell that it's taken time to get back into it. Right. The next question, this is very interesting and something close to my heart, which is Kai Jani, I think you would pronounce that. And it says here, hi, you lovely people. I think she's talking about us, which is good. Can carnivore help with chronic nerve damage and pain? C5 to C7, that's cervical region of your neck there. We used to call it cervical, but now we call it cervical because people don't like the word, which is crazy. But anyway, tried pain injections and burning the nerve, but failed. Partner is considering fusing the spine. So when I did my lower back specialism, I had an argument with the tutor there. I think Jonathan's watching as well. So Jonathan would be a really good person to talk about because, you know, firstly, good channel and good bloke, but also he's been through this, but not with his neck, more in his back, lower back. So anyway, you know, I remember the guy saying, oh, you know, like pretty much 100% of back surgery is successful. We might see those people back with a different problem 3 years later. About 70% of the people come back with a problem within 3 years. And I said, well, the first one wasn't successful. You just moved it around. So I'm not a big fan of spine fusion. And also when I did do one-to-one rehab with a lower back specialism day, wow, the amount of people that had spinal fusion and nerve burning was incredible. So I'm obviously tainted in thinking that's not possibly the best way to look at this. I do think carnivore will help because you will have lower levels of systemic inflammation, and also localized inflammation should go down in that particular area. There are many things you can look at. There are very small and simple exercises to move your neck around. There would be people like Bob and Brad, the world's two most famous physical therapists on the internet. You could look them up on YouTube and they will probably have some really good things to show you. So you see where we are, C5, C6, C7, they, you know, it depends where you're feeling the pain as well. Are you feeling the pain in the neck or are you feeling it elsewhere? So for instance, C5 will give you sensations on your upper arm. C6 is going to be like the thumb side of your forearm. And this is where it's difficult on the internet because we're not doctors, can't move you around and stuff like that. And then C7, without being too rude, is your middle finger and like your wrist flexors. So it'd be really interesting to nail that down. So I think a consultation, you know, I could do a consultation if you wanted to contact me and we'll go into a little bit more detail, but I certainly think carnivore will help. And again, I don't know if Richard wants to add a little bit to that.
Yeah, fantastic. I think, look, carnivore helps with a whole host of things because it's an anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And coming back from a simplistic point of view, it helps block the ketone production of beta-hydroxybutyric, blocks NLRP3 inflammasome. So it can help from that perspective. It seems to help with almost everything that people come to see me about. You know, some people see a complete resolution. Others see a big improvement. So I do believe a clean lifestyle is going to help. If we start to consume compounds that are highly inflammatory, then it's only going to further exacerbate. So yeah, I think carnivore can certainly help. But book Steve. Steve is fantastic at this sort of thing for a consultation. So get in and book him for that.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I've got a nice question here for you where you're, it's going to blow your mind. So we've got Sash Mode, who's been around a long time, big supporter, very good, very kind. Hi, guys. Nice to see you both again. What do you think about eating avocados? Many thanks.
Yeah, brilliant question. Out of the fruits, I think it's one of the least toxic. I indulged recently. I went to a cafe who were cooking in butter. They were doing a keto breakfast. So that involved bacon and eggs. What else was on there? Avocado. It wasn't carnivore, but it was keto. And I thought, you know what? I had no intention of consuming the avocado when it came. And I thought, why not? I consumed it and I had a bad stomach after. It caused me issues, but it's been a long time since I've consumed any fiber from plants, and my body just isn't geared up for using it. If you are not super strict in regards to, if you're more keto, then avocado is one of the least toxic, and I'm all for that. And avocado, olives, lettuce, and cucumber, those are the things that I tend to recommend to ketogenic clients to fill their plate. The plate fillers that I believe are least toxic. So avocado, as long as you can cope with it, is okay, but it is high in fiber, which may be problematic if you're strict carnivore. So try it and see.
Yeah, I mean, there are little niggly things for me with avocado. I think you're right, Richard. I think it's the least sort of offensive. Dietary creep, or carb creep as we call it. I mean, once you do that, if you're coming off carnivore and you add that, then you might add something else. So what would go against it is the potential for a histamine problem, potential for gut problems. Fiber, I don't do very well with at all, so I wouldn't tend to go for it. But if you tolerate fiber, you haven't got a histamine problem, and you're pretty good at thinking, well, that's the only thing I'm going to add, it's probably okay. But I think one of the things, you can get avocado mayonnaise, and that's really good if you're missing mayonnaise, although there are better carnivore alternatives. They're hard to get from supermarkets, whereas someone like Hunter Gather, I think, which Richard mentioned earlier, they do a very good avocado mayonnaise, right?
Which I stock.
Which Richard stocks. I didn't even know that. So if you are liking the way we answer questions, well, you could, let's try and hide that one. I don't know how to hide that. So, right, let me just get rid of that. I don't know how to get rid of Sash Mode. So you're staying on there for the moment. Right. We have our school community. If you want to join our school community, it's a bit like Facebook, as in, there's a sort of chat section there for you to go through. You can ask your questions and you will get people answering and liking you. We have a classroom as well. And we have the Keto free course, and we have How to Be Carnivore, which is a new course I did a couple of weeks ago, completely free the moment you started. We also have other levels, 19 tips to carnivore. Then we get into thyroid, where you have free ebooks, you have popular videos. We talk about other experts and their opinions as well. Dairy is another level, fruit and veg. If you want to know how to get up the levels, there's two ways to get up the levels. One is you do a lot of activity. The more you like and take part, you move up the levels, or you can do a fast track, pay a one-off fee, and break into all those levels. So that's the school, and I will put a link in the description if you want to join our school group. It's fun, it really is. And we do our live streams as we're doing now. We've got one at 8 o'clock in the members community. Then we do one tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I do one a Wellness Wednesday live Q&A. So there's plenty of access to get lots of questions answered if we can't get to your question. Right. Sorry about that. Took a long time. Let's get to the next question. I've managed to find out how to hide that one now after all that. Avocados we've done. Next one is, Richard, this is somebody bigging you up. Hi, Rich. Great answer last week. Leg cramps. Bought my magnesium spray to try it. I'll be reaching out soon for consult, hopefully. So that's good.
Awesome. Cheers, MJ.
Yeah,
fantastic feedback.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Right here, Bill Vega, carnivore for 101 days. Congratulations on BBBE. That's bacon, butter, beef, and eggs. But still drink 1 to 2 coffees a day. Can this prevent the healing of an elbow injury I had before carnivore? Darts related. Yes. Richard.
Yeah, look, it can, but this is all about the rule and not the exception. Stephen and I both consumed coffee for many years, and we were low carb, ketogenic, and then carnivore. And I still consumed coffee for many, many years while carnivore, and I was thriving. I only removed the coffee when I knew that it started to cause a problem. This doesn't mean that the problem wasn't there. My ability to recognize it was just diminished, in the same way as when you consume alcohol, for example. The first time you consume alcohol, it knocks you for 6, and then you can drink more and more and more, and you can seem to tolerate it a lot better. And I think this is the same when it comes to compounds such as coffee. It can cause problems, and it's not so much the caffeine, although caffeine is a neurotoxin. It's the acrylamide, which is it's a compound created during the roasting process, which is also created when we burn meat as well, by the way, because of the acrolein. But the acrylamide within the coffee beans is a potent neurotoxin. It can cause severe symptoms similar to ALS and other motor neuron issues. So it caused me big problems. Now, I was consuming lots and lots of coffee. I was consuming 4 to 5 cups a day with 2 double shots in each, which means I was consuming 4 shots of coffee in each one. So I was consuming 20 to 25 equivalent cups of coffee each day. Now, this caused me major problems. 1 to 2 cups a day, depending on your susceptibility, is unlikely to cause problems because the body will detox, especially if you're living carnivore. But as Stephen says, yes, at some level, it is going to slow down your body's ability to heal and repair. But I think that a far bigger fish to fry. You're carnivore for 101 days, fantastic. And I think Steve will agree with me on this, that we need 6 to 12 months, to be fully adapted. So it's, you're kicking on towards halfway. And I think you're going to start to see big resolution soon. The body's going to start increasing its ability to create beta-hydroxybutyric and utilize it more efficiently. And I think that you'll start to see more resolution over the next 50 to 60 days and onwards. If it were me, if I were in your position, Bill, I would personally keep the coffee in because I was addicted to it and I love coffee. You've already taken some big steps towards improving. I would persevere as you are. The biggest levers we can pull is removing the grains and the seed oils, and then obviously all of the other inflammatory compounds from the plants. And you're already doing this. So I think the biggest bang for your buck is yet to come. And then maybe look at removing or reducing coffee moving forward. If you can remove the coffee now, do it now. But I would be a hypocrite if I told you not to consume it, because I consumed it for many, many years into my journey. And I made every excuse under the sun to keep it in because I love coffee. It's only when it caused me severe problems that I took it out. So if you can be without it, fantastic. If you feel like you need it in, then just persevere and then look at maybe incrementing it, down slowly. If you find it's not causing any issues eventually, once your elbow is healed, then, keep it in. But it is a toxin. It is going to cause problems at some level. And if you can be without it, even better.
Excellent. Craig, thank you very much. School is very worthwhile joining. Thank you for that. That's very kind of you to say. So we go on to the next thing, which is darts related. My mum, who I lost many, many years ago, was a darts player, and I not too bad with the arrows actually. Anyway, right, here we go. Did you see the Tufts University put out their new Food Compass 2, and they rated chocolate covered almonds above chicken? Last time they rated Cheerios as healthier than bacon and eggs. No, didn't see it. Not interested, because it's bought and paid for and offers no utility whatsoever. But yeah, I know why you're mentioning it, because of those reasons. You don't care either, do you, Rich, about this misinformation?
No, but look, it's everywhere, isn't it? I mean, it's disgusting. How can anyone in their right mind look at this and say that anything chocolate covered is going to be more beneficial or healthier than an animal protein? It's just stupidity. Anyone who says otherwise is just, it's just shake your head.
Yeah, yes. Nicholas there, who is in the school group, he's answering a couple of questions in the chat. Someone's thanked him, don't mention it. We try to educate each other in the school group. It's exactly what we do, and that's what's great about it. We do definitely educate each other. Right. Papa Carnivore, we've just done. So rubber band, could carbohydrates, I'll put it on the screen, sorry, Rich. Could carbohydrates have some benefits if only eating it for refilling glycogen stores while being fat adapted? I don't think so.
Yeah, look, I'm open to as we said earlier, I am 100% sold on the idea that if we are fully adapted, require zero exogenous carbohydrate. If we look at refilling muscle glycogen stores, a fully adapted carnivore or keto athlete will do this naturally because we can buffer the hydrogen. Basically, we send this to the liver and we convert it into glycogen, which we can send back via gluconeogenesis, and we can send it back to the muscle at a higher level than we can even refeed if we were consuming carbohydrates. So do we need it? No. In a simple answer, can I 100% categorically say that it may not be beneficial? Look, I don't know. I used to use carbohydrates for refeeding muscle glycogen when I was competing. So I did that for aesthetic purposes. And the reason I did this, I would fill with fat first, fill the intracellular myolipids, which would add about 7 pounds over 2 or 3 days. And then I would consume rice, white rice, which is lectin-free. And then I would fill my glyco stores to add another 10 pounds. So I would gain 17 pounds in 4 or 5 days, purely for aesthetic purposes. Can this confer a benefit if we are competing? Our good friend Alan Reeves believes heavily in a weekly glyco refeed, and he obviously does incredibly well. It did nothing but cause problems for me personally. I would put carbohydrate in, even though I was fat adapted and did not come out of a ketogenic state. It fueled cravings for me. My cravings for sugar increased massively, and I found it incredibly difficult not to fall off the wagon. So from that perspective, it wasn't for me. If we could maintain a specific level and not overconsume, who knows? But I think, look, we need to look at it from the other angle also. If we are using it for athletic performance, so I don't know what sport we're considering in regard. If we look at a muscle protein synthesis, then it's no. Carbohydrate does not increase muscle protein synthesis at all. Zero. When adequate protein is consumed. So if we're looking at building muscle, it's not going to do that. Could it supply a benefit for high intensity sports? Potentially, but we can replenish, as I just said. And what we need to bear in mind is if we do refill the glyco stores with carbohydrate prior to, say, a run-in or cycling event, then we may be carrying an additional 5 to 7 pounds in glyco and water. And is that going to be counterintuitive to our chosen sport? I mean, if I were to hand you this full of water, this is an additional 1 kilogram. Are you going to carry this during your half marathon or, your marathon or your cycling event? Well, you're not really going to carry this in your hand because it weighs a kilo. Imagine carrying multiple amounts of these, which is essentially what you're doing if you're carb loading before an event, which is why I think it's counterintuitive to most people to do so, especially when we can do so without consuming exogenous. So look, it seems to work for some people depending on their chosen sports, but I'm inclined to agree with Steve. I think if you were fully adapted, I genuinely believe that there's very little requirement, but experiment, because we don't know it all. The science is constantly changing, and this is why I'd love to get this study in place, the one that we've mentioned earlier on. I truly believe that if you are fully keto adapted, and it's never been done. No one's ever tested anyone who's been zero carb for longer than 12 months. In fact, no one's ever tested anyone zero carb for longer than like 6 weeks. So, I mean, let's see.
It's important to do. Yeah, absolutely. Beverly Jones has got this question. She was whole food plant-based for 7 years, swapped to animal-based in September, almost carnivore from January. Test Feb alpha hydroxybutyric acid, it was 1.24, and the range is less than 0.83. Should I worry? No, not really. Don't take should I worry as just ignore it. But this is what we call a dietary shift pattern, which we see. Also, those ranges are based on people eating 45 to 65% carbohydrates. So what is AHB? It's a metabolite, which is just a substance made or broken down basically from food, and amino acids like methionine and threonine in particular. Now, we're eating more of those, so you're going to get more metabolites. And it's possibly just down to increased protein turnover. So I don't think it's a big worry. Also, a snapshot without any context is not really a good thing to look at. So other things you could do is like a complete metabolic panel. You could do CBC. You could also do like kidney function test, liver function test, homocysteine. You could test uric acid. So really, what I'm trying to say is, the more you test, the better. Glutathione levels. You could test all of those things and put it all in context. But I would say, for now, I wouldn't worry about that at all. Richard?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we see this across the board with lots of things when we gravitate into consuming more animal proteins. And again, as you know, as you say, Steve, we're going to be outside the normative range because we're not normal. You know?
Yeah. We're not that cohort. Yeah, we're extraordinary. We're not ordinary. Yeah, brilliant. I like it. Right, this is one right up your street, I think, Richard. Right, and it is aimed at you. Richard, have you done eccentric training? It might be a good idea just to explain that for people. Should it boost myofibrillar hypertrophy instead of sacroplasmic, like concentric training? Also induces autophagy. Your opinion about eccentrics?
Yeah, that's my type of training. It's so to explain what it is, eccentric movements, for example, if we're bench pressing, it's concentrated on the downward instead of the concentric, which is this movement. Most of my I've recently started back in the gym, little bit of shape coming on already. This was baggy on me a few weeks ago. It's coming back. I've done very, very little training in the gym over the last few weeks, and everything is starting to lump and bump, and it's a nice feeling. And that's the training that I've been concentrating on, is eccentric movement. So it's basically for bench, for example, I've been counting 5 seconds down, 2 for the up, which is the concentric. I do introduce concentric movements, but 80% of my training is eccentric across the board. You need to leave ego at the door, because you'll lift a lot less on eccentric movements, but you're stronger on eccentric movements. So one of the things that I do on the eccentric lifts is, on the last lift, when I've got nothing left to give on the concentric, I'll hold as long as I can on the downward, and it's just basically coming down as slow as I can. And this is increasing the strength. It's increasing the size also. And once every 4 weeks, so basically I'll do this for 3 weeks, and one session a month, I'll concentrate on concentric movements and go a little heavier, and I'll bump the weights up. But eccentric movements for me, rep ranges of 12 to 16, I believe to be optimal. This doesn't mean that you just stop at 16. Basically, if you've done a certain weight and you can do more than 16, then you need to lift. You need to put the weight up until you're hitting that rep range of 12 to 16. Just my opinion. There are lots of other means to do this, and there are lots of other pieces of advice from other people I respect in the industry who have different techniques. This is the one that works best for me. Having very high myostatin, which is a protein in the muscle which prevents muscle building, I found that this works best for me. So eccentric movements allowed me to build more muscle, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember. I mean, you could look back on the videos of the last few weeks, but when I was doing lots of the running and cycling, I was incredibly lean, but I had a layer of fat around my midsection, the lightest I've ever been with a layer of fat. Just a few weeks into resistance training, and everything is exploding. My strength is coming back. The shape is coming back, and it's all done through, obviously, diet, meal timings, adequate protein, adequate fat. But eccentric training for me is the key, with one concentric session a month.
Excellent. Sally-Ann McManara has offered a £3 super sticker and a comment, actually. Hi, back from open heart surgery 3 weeks post-op for removal of left atrium benign tumor lemon size. Getting back to full carny after terrible hospital food, harder than I thought now. Anemic. Speedy recovery, Sally-Ann. You've been around a few months, I think, coming on, so that's
longer than that. I think Sally-Ann is one of our long-time followers.
All right, okay. And yes, there's not enough heme iron in hospital food. There's not enough protein or fats. It's hospital food will make you sick, I think. So yeah, it is hard to get back on the wagon, as they say, but you will, and we're here to support you. So thanks for the feedback and the update. Right, speedy recovery. Right, let's do the next thing. It's very, very busy, isn't it, tonight? It's unbelievable. Right, Beverly, we've done, I think. Yes. So the next one is. Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is an interesting question from MJ. I've noticed last couple of months that muscles are fuller. I lowered protein slightly, still over 250 grams per day, and increased fat, lamb and beef. Is this a result of increased fat? I mean, that is actually possible. Many people ignore this. When you have your energy intake from fat, or its fat is being oxidized, you can actually increase your intracellular water. So that will contribute to the fuller effect. This is why you can get carnivore bodybuilders who still look pretty good. So they're obviously eating the right amount of fat. But I don't know if, Richard, you want to pop a bit more onto that?
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, there's always this thing about the correct macronutrient ratio, protein to fat, and so on and so forth. And this is a perfect example of where everyone is slightly different. What works for one is going to be different to the next. But as you said earlier, 70% of the people tend to fit, a specific remit. Fat is going to make you fuller. We have the ability to store more fat in the muscle than somebody on carbohydrate. I would argue twice as much. This is why when I did the fat feed before competing, I'd gained 7 pounds. And this is due to the fat we store in the intracellular myolipids. So yeah, it's what I would say, MJ, is if you continue with this, you may find, and the only way that you're going to know this on a day-to-day basis is test in the midsection with a caliber, a body fat caliber. Measure that daily as 3 points, right on the end, just left of the belly button, and maybe on top of the belly button. Make sure it's the same place every day. The higher fat, you may find starts to store. The opposite is also true, because the protein is what is eliciting this insulin response, and it's insulin that drives the fat. You could remove the protein in theory and double the fat and probably still lose weight, because we're not eliciting an insulin response, or at least very little from the fat. Therefore, we're not storing the fat. In theory, we can consume tens of thousands of grams or caloric value of fat and not gain any without an insulin response. And it's the insulin response from the protein, but the protein is the building block. This is, in my opinion, more important than anything, because this is quite literally what builds it and heals every cell within the body. Experiment with it. You may find that you need to alternate days. You may find that you go through spells where you increase the protein and drop the fat, and vice versa, and that's fine. It's our energy requirements and heating requirements will change. Just keep an eye on it. But it's fantastic. It's fantastic data. Keep us updated. But I think it's incredible. I find it very. I find it's incredibly interesting the way the body reacts for me to different foods that I consume, and if I maintain a certain diet for a period of time, my body seems to adapt, and I need to shake things up by altering something, and that is usually altering the protein to fat ratio severely one way or the other. Now and again, I do find that higher fat days and lower fat days, and higher protein and lower protein alternating with no specific time frame seems to keep me in check and keep me fairly lean. But yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, that is such a brilliant answer. Thank you so much for that. Amanda has an interesting question. Are there any concerns to 1 to 2 ounces of liver or kidney or heart daily? Diet is 1.5 grams of ground beef plus 2 egg yolks, 1 stick of butter, and sometimes cod liver oil. 5'6" woman in her 30s, weighing 135 pounds.
Brilliant question. So 1 to 2 ounces, that is 57 grams.
Yeah.
Just doing the conversion. Let me get my calculator, because I do have a preferred amount for this.
Right, cool. Well, while you're doing that, no, yeah, so that's 2 ounces is 56.7 grams. So yeah,
I don't think there's a problem with this at all.
no.
And I'll tell you why. Many people within the keto carnivore arena are afraid of vitamin A toxicity and copper toxicity. So there are some caveats to this. Most of the research that we see on vitamin A toxicity isn't actually from vitamin A. It's from beta carotene, which is the plant version of vitamin A. Retinol, which is true vitamin A, works very differently within the body. Research which has shown vitamin A toxicity has come from like 1,000 times the amount that we'd get from bovine, for example. So we're talking extreme amounts. We're talking polar bear liver toxicity, which 1,000 times higher than that of a cow, and for prolonged periods of time. So I do believe beta carotene will work differently in the body to retinol. 1 to 2 ounces, which is 57 grams, which is less than 400 grams a week. I think that 500 grams of liver, kidney, or whatever per week is perfectly fine. In fact, I do believe it to be beneficial. Now that we've covered the retinol, the copper toxicity, if you're consuming 1.5 pounds of ground beef and eggs each day, meat, animal proteins, nature provides us with this perfectly packaged present. And many of you have heard me mention about the protein to fat, but it goes well beyond this because muscle meat contains zinc. Zinc helps bind copper to metallothionein, and this helps prevent over consumption or toxicity of the copper. So basically, nature provides us with the perfect ingredients to prevent this copper overload and copper toxicity. I think that's perfectly fine. And that's probably the amount of liver that I consume each week. Liver is incredibly nutrient dense, incredibly high in vitamin B2, which in my opinion, for many people on carnivore who suffer with low methylation is a problem. Methylation involves at least 5 different pathways. And they all begin with the folate cycle, the methionine cycle, the transsulfuration pathway, the uric acid cycle. There's one I'm forgetting, but the BH4 cycle. And all of these are connected to vitamin B and vitamin B2 and vitamin B3. We can increase slow methylation with increase in vitamin B2. And many of us do not consume, many of us who suffer with slow methylation do not obtain enough B2 from just muscle meat. Lots of us can, so don't shoot me. Many of us can. But if you do suffer with slow methylation, you can easily increase this with B2 from organ meats. So a little bit of beef liver is fantastic. The kidney is very high in diamine oxidase, which is going to help with histamine problems. Heart is very high in coenzyme Q10, also known as ubiquinone, which is used in the electron transport chain. So these are 3 fantastic compounds to add in that ratio. 400 grams each week, I think is probably optimal. I wouldn't want to go much over 500, although I do know people who thrive on maybe 1,000 grams per week. But there are caveats to this. So I do believe that we need to eat the animal in complex as nature provides. And by that, what I mean is the organ meats make up a very small portion of the animal in comparison to the muscle meat. So we should eat it in comparison to how the animal provides it to us in nature. And this means that I do believe that we shouldn't just consume organ meats, which is also why I believe our good friend Paul Saladino suffered with downstream deleterious effects because of the incorrect ratio of muscle meat to organ meats. Had he consumed the correct ratio as nature intended, I don't believe he would have suffered with any of these problems. But yeah, I think what you're doing there, Amanda, is perfectly fine.
Excellent. Thank you to Bobby for $4.99 super chat. So much great information. Thanks. That's what we're here for. I'm glad you're finding it helpful. And over 200 people watching here, a few people on the X platform and Facebook. Nobody bothers on Facebook, but I always stream it to Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, do a comment. But we never get your questions on here. I think that's why Facebook doesn't get many people because you can't actually post a question live, which is really frustrating. Right, here we go. This is from Mario, and I think, Mario, this might be the last question. I'm sorry, YouTubers, if you've got a question we haven't got to it. Like I say, we're here every week. You can always get in, always add a super chat to jump the queue, or you can join our school where we'll be on in 5 minutes, and we'll be doing another 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we've got an hour tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Anyway, Mario is saying, suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, everything gives me joint pain, stroke, swelling. Whenever I eat carbs, even very low, I get dizziness and feel like fainting. High LDL, high triglycerides. Should I go Lion?
Yeah, brilliant question. Look, Mario, I think you've answered your own question there. Look, rheumatoid arthritis is autoimmune. All autoimmune comes from intestinal permeability. So we need to heal the gut. Healing the gut is job number one. This involves removing grains, which are incredibly damaging and harmful to the gut. People who suffer with gluten intolerance will suffer with this. You can be tested for gluten intolerance via a celiac test, but this won't show issues with wheat germ agglutinin. Now, everyone who consumes wheat germ agglutinin, and this compound is found in even gluten-free products, will suffer with intestinal permeability. So grains, remove them. Seed oils also cause intestinal permeability. Things like alcohol and drugs cause intestinal permeability. Plant compounds in general can cause intestinal permeability. Some are worse than others. Tomatoes, for example, bell peppers, very high in lectins in the form of phytohemagglutinin. All plants, or at least most plants, contain these compounds. So this is why whenever you consume some form of carbohydrate, you're causing problems. Consuming plant compounds such as spinach and kale and turmeric will cause problems because they are highly inflammatory. They block phase 2 detoxification in the liver, and they will also bind to calcium and cause buildup of what's the word I'm thinking of, Steve? They'll cause buildup in the joints with something. Yeah, what am I thinking of? Oxalates.
Oxalates, right?
Yeah,
okay.
oxalates.
Yes.
They'll build up in the all of these big words that we can't think of oxalate. So, and many other compounds will cause these sorts of things when we consume them from the plant compound. So removing these are going to help. Whenever you eat carbs, even very low, you get dizziness. I mean, this is telling you everything that you need to know. So I would gravitate towards animal-based at least. Lion is very extreme. If you can do that, I do recommend it if this is achieved via incremental changes. Step change towards Lion, I wouldn't recommend unless it's an extreme circumstance. I do believe that we need to give the gut microbiome time to adapt. We need to give the stomach time to ramp up the acidity and the bile production and reabsorption. All of this can take time. So Lion may be the perfect scenario, but I do believe that maybe getting there via incremental changes is going to be more beneficial. Maybe begin, with consuming things like chicken and pork and salmon and king prawn, anything that you believe that you can tolerate to keep that range available. But as long as you're consuming lots of the animal proteins and natural fats, lamb is fantastic, beef obviously fantastic. Gravitate towards Lion over a period of maybe 3 to 4 weeks, and report back and let us know how you get on. But all of those things I mentioned are going to contribute to inflammation, intestinal permeability, which are going to drive your rheumatoid arthritis. So we need to remove them, particularly the oxalates, as we've mentioned.
Excellent. Okay, so that's all we've got time for, YouTubers. If you want to join our school group, the link is in the chat. And as I put there in writing, we're still very inexpensive compared to every other school community, school SKOOL. We are about half the price of most other content creators and communities. So if you join, get in now. We are sort of trying to moderate it so we don't get too many people in there. If you get in now, the price is still very inexpensive, and we will guarantee to keep it for life. And we've done that for other people. We are thinking of putting the prices up, and if we do put the prices up, it will probably go up to maybe double what we're paying at the moment, or charging at the moment. But so get in quick, because we want to see you there and we want to help you. But anyway, YouTubers, thank you very much. If you're not going to join us in school, we'll see you next Sunday at 7 p.m. here in State Control Britain. Fight the good fight, everyone.
Thank you all. See you soon. Hello guys, Rich here, Keto Pro. Today I'm joined with a good buddy of mine, Stephen Thomas. Welcome to our school group. Here are some fantastic reasons to sign up. You can join our general discussion full of like-minded people. Our supportive group are there to help with any issues that you may be suffering with along your journey. There's a section on recipes. You can click on the top of the calendar to see all of our weekly live sessions. Stephen and I go live within the group for Q&A 2 times each week. First being on the Sunday at 8 p.m. for 30 minutes, followed by the Monday at 8 p.m. for a full hour of Q&A. There are over 9 courses available for you to take part in, available within the Classroom tab. So what are you waiting for? Sign up to our school group today.